Taesung pushed his cleaning cart down the empty hallway of the Meridian trade station. His shoes made soft squeaking sounds on the polished floor. It was 3 in the morning and everyone else had gone home hours ago. This was his favorite time to work. No crowds, no important aliens rushing past him like he was invisible. No one looking down at him because he was just a janitor. The station floated in space above Earth, a giant wheel where aliens from hundreds of different planets came to do business. Taesung had worked here for 6 years now. He cleaned the executive level, where the richest and most powerful beings in the galaxy made their deals. He had seen creatures made of light, beings that looked like walking plants, and aliens so strange he could not even describe them to his sister when he called home. He reached the main conference hall and pressed his hand against the door scanner. The doors slid open with a soft hiss. Taesung flipped on his cleaning gear and walked inside. The room was huge with a table that could seat 50 people. Giant windows showed the stars outside, and Earth hung in the distance like a blue marble. But something was different tonight. Usually the room was dark and empty. Tonight a holographic display was still turned on. Blue light filled the air above the table, showing page after page of text. Taesung frowned. Someone had forgotten to turn off their presentation. He should just turn it off and start cleaning. That was the smart thing to do. Mind your own business, do your job, go home. That was how you survived as a human on this station. Humans were new to the galaxy and most aliens saw them as simple and unimportant. But Taesung was curious. He walked closer to the holographic display and looked at the floating words. It was a contract. A very long, very complicated contract. He recognized some of the legal terms because his younger sister Hee-jin was a lawyer back on Earth. When she was in law school, she used to practice by making Taesung read contracts with her. She said it was good for him to understand how the world really worked. Taesung reached out and scrolled through the holographic pages. The contract was between someone named Velthar and something called the Galactic Trade Consortium. It was about mining rights for a planet called Zephyros Prime. Taesung did not know much about business, but the numbers were huge. Trillions of credits. This was a very big deal. He kept reading. The first part of the contract seemed normal. Velthar would give the consortium permission to mine certain minerals from his planet. In exchange, he would get money and technology. It seemed fair. But then Taesung reached section 47. Something felt wrong. The language changed. It became more complicated with words inside of words. His sister had taught him to watch for this. She called it hiding the knife in the flowers. When lawyers wanted to trick someone, they made the dangerous part sound boring and normal. Taesung read section 47 again. Then he read it a third time. His heart started beating faster. The section said that along with mining rights, Velthar was also giving away complete territorial sovereignty and all biological resources and derivative entities currently residing within said territory. That was not about mining. That was about people. The contract was saying that Velthar was giving the consortium complete control over his planet and everyone living on it. They would own his people. They could do whatever they wanted with them. This was not a business deal. This was a trap. Taesung stepped back from the hologram. His hands were shaking. Should he tell someone? Who would listen to him? He was just a janitor. If he said something, they would probably fire him. Maybe they would think he was a spy or a thief, looking at private documents. But if Velthar signed this contract, millions of people would lose their freedom. Maybe billions. Taesung did not know how many beings lived on Zephyros Prime, but it had to be a lot if it was worth trillions of credits. He heard footsteps in the hallway outside. Heavy footsteps, not human. Taesung froze. The doors opened and something walked into the room. It was like nothing Taesung had ever seen before. The being stood over 8 feet tall, with a body that looked like it was made of crystal and metal mixed together. It had 6 arms, each one moving independently, and its face was angular and sharp, catching the light from the hologram. When it moved, Taesung could hear a soft chiming sound like wind through glass. This had to be Velthar. Only someone very rich and very important would come to the executive conference hall at 3 in the morning. The alien stopped when he saw Taesung. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Taesung knew he should apologize, bow, and leave quickly. That was the proper thing to do. Let the important alien have his privacy. Forget what he had read. Keep his job. Stay safe. But he thought about his sister. Hee-jin had become a lawyer because she wanted to help people who could not help themselves. She always said that staying silent when you saw something wrong was the same as helping the bad guys. Tae-sung had never done anything brave in his life. He had always played it safe, kept his head down, followed the rules. Not tonight. Tae-sung took a deep breath and stepped forward. His voice came out smaller than he wanted, but it came out. "Excuse me, sir. Don't sign that agreement." The alien's head turned toward him. Light refracted through his crystalline face in rainbow patterns. Tae-sung could not read his expression. He did not even know if this being had expressions that humans could understand. "You are a maintenance worker," Velthar said. His voice sounded like music, high and low notes at the same time. "Why do you address me?" Tae-sung's heart hammered in his chest. He could barely breathe. But he had already started. He had to finish. "The contract, sir. The one on the table, I read it. There is something hidden in it. Something bad." Velthar moved closer. Each step made that chiming sound. He was so tall that Tae-sung had to look up to see his face. "You read my private business documents?" "I am sorry, sir. I should not have. But I am glad I did. Because if you sign that contract, you will lose everything. Not just money. Your planet. Your people. Everything." The alien was silent for a long moment. Tae-sung waited for him to get angry, to call security, to have him arrested. But Velthar did something unexpected. He tilted his head to the side, a gesture that somehow looked curious. "Explain," Velthar said simply. Tae-sung let out a breath he did not know he was holding. He walked to the holographic display and scrolled to section 47. His hands were still shaking, but his voice got stronger as he talked. "Here, sir. This section, it looks like it is just about mining rights. But these words here, complete territorial sovereignty and biological resources and derivative entities, that means people. It means everyone living on your planet. You would be signing them away. The consortium would own them." Velthar leaned in close to the hologram. His crystalline fingers moved through the air, scrolling through the text. He read in silence for several minutes. Tae-sung waited, barely daring to breathe. Finally, Velthar straightened up. When he spoke again, his musical voice sounded different. Quieter, almost shocked. "How did you see this? My legal team reviewed this contract for months. 50 experts. All of them missed this clause." Tae-sung thought about his sister, about all those nights studying contracts at her kitchen table. "My sister is a lawyer, sir. She taught me to read carefully. On Earth, we have a saying, the devil is in the details. It means the most dangerous things hide in small places, in words that seem boring or unimportant." Velthar turned his full attention to Tae-sung. "What is your name, human?" "Tae-sung, sir." "Tae-sung." The alien seemed to taste the name. "You may have just saved my entire civilization. I believe we need to talk more about this contract, and about who created it." Before Velthar could say more, the conference hall doors burst open. A tall snake-like creature slithered in, followed by 3 smaller beings that looked like floating jellyfish. The snake creature wore expensive robes covered in gems that sparkled in the starlight. His eyes were golden and cold. "Velthar, my friend," the snake said, his voice smooth and oily. "I am so glad you came early. We can finalize everything before the ceremony begins. I have brought witnesses and recorders to make the signing official." Then the snake noticed Tae-sung. His golden eyes narrowed. "What is this human doing here? This is a private meeting." Tae-sung took a step back. He recognized this creature from the contract header. This was Ambassador Krell, the one representing the Galactic Trade Consortium. The one who had written the trap. Velthar held up one crystalline hand. "This human works here. He was cleaning the room. Then he should leave," Krell said sharply. "Security should remove him immediately." The ambassador pulled out a communication device. "I am calling station security right now. We cannot have random workers interrupting important business." Tae-sung felt his stomach drop. He was going to lose his job. Maybe worse. He had interfered with something way above his level. But at least Velthar knew about the trap now. At least he had warned him. "Wait," Velthar said. His voice was quiet but had power in it. "I want him to stay." Krell froze, his communication device halfway to his mouth. "What, why?" "Because he noticed something interesting about the contract. Something I want to understand better before I sign anything." The snake's whole body went rigid. The jellyfish beings behind him started glowing brighter, like they were nervous. "Velthar, we have been planning this deal for 2 years. Everything has been reviewed by the best legal minds in the galaxy. What could a human janitor possibly have noticed that they missed? That is exactly what I want to find out, Velthar said. He gestured to Taesung. Show him. Show Ambassador Krell what you found. Taesung's mouth was dry. Every instinct told him to run. But Velthar was giving him a chance. He walked to the hologram and pointed to section 47. Here, this section. It says that Velthar is giving you more than mining rights. He is giving you complete control of his planet and everyone on it. Krell's laugh was like breaking glass. Ridiculous. This is standard language for resource extraction agreements. The human does not understand galactic contract law. Then explain it to me, Velthar said. His voice was harder now. Explain what complete territorial sovereignty means. It simply means we have the authority to manage the mining operations without interference, Krell said smoothly. Standard procedure. You are still the owner of the planet, of course. Taesung found his courage again. But what about this part? All biological resources and derivative entities. That does not sound like minerals to me. Krell's eyes fixed on Taesung like a predator looking at prey. Biological resources refers to organic compounds we might discover during mining. Bacteria, perhaps. Simple life forms. Nothing more. Then why not say that? Taesung asked. Why use words that could mean people? Because galactic legal language must be precise and cover all possibilities, Krell said. But Taesung noticed something. The ambassador's tail was twitching. His sister had taught him that when people got defensive and started explaining too much, they were usually lying. Velthar noticed it too. He scrolled through the hologram, reading more carefully now. Krell, I have signed many contracts with the consortium before. I do not remember language like this in previous agreements. Why is this one different? Every planet is unique, Krell said quickly. Every contract must be customized. Your legal team approved every word of this document. Are you really going to trust a human janitor over 50 expert lawyers? Before Velthar could answer, the doors opened again. A human woman in a security uniform walked in. She was tall and muscular, with short black hair and sharp eyes. Taesung recognized her. This was Bora, the station's security chief. She was known for being strict but fair. Ambassador Krell called me about a disturbance, Bora said. She looked at Taesung. Taesung, what are you doing in here? You know you are not supposed to interact with guests. He was just leaving, Krell said quickly. Please escort him out. But Velthar spoke first. Actually, Chief Bora, I would like him to stay. And I would like you to stay as well. As a witness, Bora looked confused but nodded. Of course, sir. Whatever you need. Velthar turned back to the hologram. He started reading the entire contract from the beginning, his crystalline fingers moving slowly through each page. The room was silent except for the soft humming of the holographic display. Krell watched, his body tense. The jellyfish beings dimmed their glow, trying to be invisible. Taesung stood quietly, trying not to move. Bora gave him a questioning look, but he just shook his head slightly. He did not know what was going to happen next. After nearly an hour, Velthar finished reading. He straightened up and looked at Krell. When he spoke, his musical voice was cold as ice. This human is right. This contract is a trap. And it is not the only one, is it? I do not know what you mean, Krell said, but his voice was less confident now. I have been doing business with the consortium for 40 years, Velthar said. I have signed dozens of agreements. Now I'm wondering how many of them had language like this, language that gave you more than I realized. He turned to Bora. Chief, I need you to pull up every contract I have signed with the Galactic Trade Consortium in the past 40 years. I want to review them all. Bora looked surprised but nodded. That is a lot of documents, sir. It will take time. I have time, Velthar said, and I am not signing anything until I understand exactly what I have already signed. Krell's tail was thrashing now. Velthar, you are making a terrible mistake. The consortium has powerful friends. We do not appreciate having our integrity questioned, based on the paranoid interpretations of a human. Then you have nothing to worry about. Velthar said calmly. If the contracts are fair, the review will prove it. But if they are not fair, then we have a different conversation to have. The snake ambassador stared at Velthar for a long moment. Then he looked at Taesung with pure hatred in his golden eyes. You have made an enemy today, human. You do not even understand what you have done. I understand that I stopped someone from being tricked, Taesung said quietly. His fear was fading, replaced by something else. Anger. And if you did nothing wrong, why are you so upset? Krell hissed, an ugly sound that made Taesung's skin crawl. Then the ambassador turned and slithered out of the room, his jellyfish witnesses floating behind him. After they left, Velthar turned to Taesung. "You're either very brave or very foolish. Probably both. The Consortium is one of the most powerful organizations in the galaxy. They do not forgive people who interfere with their business." "I know," Taesung said, "but my sister always says that doing the right thing is more important than doing the safe thing." "Your sister sounds wise," Velthar said. "I would like to meet her someday." He paused, his crystalline face catching the light. "But first I have a question for you, Taesung. You said the devil is in the details. You said humans learn to read contracts carefully because of your history. Tell me more about this." Taesung thought about how to explain. "On Earth, humans fought each other for thousands of years. We made agreements and broke them. We wrote treaties and found ways around them. We built empires on paper and destroyed them with fine print. It was not good, but it taught us to be careful, to read everything twice, to trust but verify." Velthar was quiet for a moment. "So humanity's violent, divided past gave you a skill. The ability to see traps in words." "I guess so," Taesung said. "Then perhaps," Velthar said slowly, "humanity's greatest weakness is actually its greatest strength." He turned to Bora. "Chief, I'm going to need your help with something. And Taesung, I am going to need yours as well. How would you like a new job?" 3 weeks later, Taesung sat in a luxury spacecraft he never thought he would see, let alone travel in. Velthar's private ship was bigger than the apartment building where Taesung had grown up. It had rooms for 50 passengers, a kitchen with chefs from 10 different planets, and windows that showed the stars streaming past as they traveled faster than light. But Taesung barely noticed the luxury. He was too busy reading contracts. His eyes hurt. His head hurt. But he could not stop because every contract he read revealed something new and terrible. "This one too," he said, highlighting another section on his datapad. Same language, just hidden differently. They got him to sign away water rights to his moon colonies. Across the table, Dongmin nodded and added the information to his database. Dongmin was a human data analyst Velthar had hired to help with the investigation. He was younger than Taesung, maybe 25, with thick glasses and nervous hands that were always typing. That makes 38 contracts with hidden traps. 38 different species affected. Next to him, Ji-won circled something in the holographic display floating above the table. She was a professor, an expert in how different alien cultures understood agreements and promises. She had left her university to join Velthar's investigation team. The pattern is clear now. The consortium targets species that have cultural traditions of trusting verbal agreements over written ones. They exploit the gap between what people think they are signing and what the words actually say. Velthar stood by the window, looking out at the stars. He had been quiet all day. Taesung knew why. They had just finished reviewing all of Velthar's personal contracts. The wealthy merchant had lost more than he gained in almost every deal. He was still rich, but he should have been 10 times richer. And more importantly, people under his protection had suffered because of agreements he did not fully understand. 47. Velthar said finally, "We have confirmed 47 civilizations that signed away their sovereignty without knowing it. 12 planets have been completely emptied of their original populations. The people were reclassified as contract laborers and sold to other worlds. All of it legal. All of it documented. All of it hidden in language that no one read carefully enough." Bora entered the room carrying a data chip. The security chief had taken leave from her job to help with the investigation. She looked tired. "I have confirmation from our source inside the consortium. The scheme goes back at least 300 years, maybe longer. The current leadership inherited it from their predecessors. They have been running this operation for generations." "Who is behind it?" Taesung asked. "Who started this?" "A group of merchant families," Bora said. "The oldest and richest in the galaxy. They call themselves the Founding Council. They created the Galactic Trade Consortium as a way to legally steal entire worlds." Ji-won pulled up a holographic chart showing the connections between different contracts. Planets and the families behind them. It looked like a spider web. It is brilliant in a horrible way. No single contract is obviously criminal. Each one just takes a little more than it should. A mining right here, a settlement clause there, a resource transfer somewhere else. But together they add up to complete control. Dongmin's hand shook as he typed, and every contract references other contracts, creating a chain. Even if you break one link, the others hold. The whole system protects itself. Taesung felt sick. When he had warned Velthar about that first contract, he thought he was stopping one bad deal. Now he realized he had uncovered something much bigger, an entire system designed to trap people, and the consortium had been using it for centuries. "We have to tell someone," Taesung said. "The Galactic Council." "The authorities, someone. Who?" Velthar asked, turning from the window. "The consortium has friends everywhere. Half the council probably signed similar contracts. They might be victims too, or they might be part of it. We do not know who to trust." Before anyone could answer, the ship's alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed. A voice came over the speakers. "Hull breach detected. We are under attack." "Repeat, we are under attack." Bora grabbed her weapon and ran for the door. "Everyone stay here. Lock the door after me." But she never made it. The door exploded inward. Smoke filled the room. Taesung hit the floor, his ears ringing. He heard weapons fire, shouting in languages he did not understand. Someone grabbed his arm and dragged him behind the overturned table. It was Dongmin. The young analyst's glasses were broken, hanging crooked on his face. "Stay down!" Through the smoke, Taesung saw shapes moving. Attackers in black armor. They were shooting at anything that moved. He heard Bora returning fire from somewhere in the corridor. Velthar was against the far wall, his crystalline body cracked in one place, blue liquid dripping down. Jiwon was next to Taesung, clutching her datapad like it was a shield. "They are going to kill us," she whispered. "They are going to kill us all." Taesung's mind raced. The consortium had found them. Of course they had. Velthar was too important, the investigation too dangerous. They could not let it continue. One of the attackers moved closer to their table. Taesung could see the weapon in its hand. Some kind of energy rifle. In seconds, it would come around the table and see them. Then Velthar moved. Despite his injury, the merchant prince was fast. His 6 arms grabbed pieces of the broken furniture and threw them at the attackers. It was enough distraction. Bora fired again and 2 attackers went down. "The escape pods," Velthar shouted. "Get to the escape pods!" Dongmin grabbed his database tablet. Jiwon grabbed her research files. Taesung grabbed the datapad with the contract analysis. They ran. The corridor was full of smoke and sparks from damaged systems. Behind them, Taesung heard more weapons fire. The ship shook. Something exploded. They turned a corner and found the escape pod bay. Bora was already there, covering their escape. "Get in, now!" They piled into the small pod. Velthar came last, his crystalline body barely fitting through the door. Bora hit the launch button and jumped in just as another explosion rocked the ship. The pod shot out into space. Through the window, Taesung watched Velthar's beautiful ship break apart in silence. Pieces of metal and burning fuel drifted in the darkness. "Did anyone else get out?" Jiwon asked. Her face was pale. "I do not know," Bora said. The ship had 40 crew members. "I do not know how many made it to pods. They floated in space for 3 hours before another ship found them. It was a medical transport responding to the distress signal. The crew pulled them aboard and treated their injuries. Velthar's crack was sealed with special resin. Dongmin got new glasses. Taesung's ears stopped ringing, but they had lost everything. The ship, the luxury, most of their evidence. Dongmin had his database, but it was incomplete. Jiwon had her research, but not all of it. Taesung had the contract analysis, but not the original documents. They almost won, Velthar said quietly. They were in the medical bay, sitting on beds designed for creatures their size. "They almost stopped us, but they did not," Taesung said. "We are still alive. We still know the truth." "Knowing is not enough," Velthar said. "We need proof. Real proof that the Galactic Council cannot ignore." Bora looked up from cleaning her weapon. "I might know someone who can help. Someone inside the consortium who has been waiting for a chance to get out." "A whistleblower?" Jiwon asked. "Maybe," Bora said. "But it is dangerous. If the consortium knows we are talking to their people, they will try again. Next time they might succeed. Then we need to move fast," Velthar said. "And we need to be smarter. No more big ships. No more obvious investigations. We go quiet, we go small, and we get the proof we need." Taesung thought about his little apartment on the station, his simple job, his quiet life. All of that was gone now. The consortium knew his face. They had tried to kill him. There was no going back. But when he looked at the faces around him, he did not feel scared anymore. He felt determined. They had started something important. People were depending on them to finish it. So what do we do now? He asked. Velthar's crystalline face caught the light from the medical bay. Despite everything, despite the attack and the fear, he smiled. Now we find that whistleblower. We get our proof, and then we take this fight to the Galactic Council itself. The Galactic Council chamber was the most impressive place Tae-sung had ever seen. It was a massive sphere floating in space, with thousands of seats arranged in circles going up and up until they seemed to touch the stars, visible through the transparent dome above. Representatives from every member species sat in those seats, some breathing oxygen, some breathing methane, some not breathing at all. And Tae-sung, a janitor from Earth, stood in the center of it all. His legs shook. His hands were sweaty, but he held his datapad steady and waited for permission to speak. Next to him stood Velthar, Jiwon, Dongmin, and Bora. Behind them sat Kyung-soo, the human ambassador to the Galactic Council. He had not wanted to support their case at first. He thought they were troublemakers who would make humans look bad. But when he saw their evidence, he changed his mind. And there was one more person with them. Del, the whistleblower. She looked like a giant moth with soft fur and huge eyes that reflected light in rainbow colors. She had worked for the consortium for 20 years before she realized what they were really doing. When Bora contacted her, she agreed to testify, even though she knew it would ruin her life. At the highest seat in the chamber sat Council Matriarch Yus. She was older than anyone in the room, maybe 1,000 years old. Her species looked like living stone, and she moved slowly, but when she spoke, everyone listened. This emergency session was called by Merchant Prince Velthar, Matriarch Yus said, her voice deep and resonant. He brings serious accusations against the Galactic Trade Consortium. We will hear his evidence, Velthar stepped forward. His crystalline body had healed, but Tae-sung could still see the faint line where he had cracked during the attack. Honored Council, I bring proof of systematic fraud spanning 3 centuries. The consortium has been using deceptive contracts to steal entire worlds. From the other side of the chamber, a group of beings stood up. They wore robes of gold and silver, and they looked angry. These were the leaders of the consortium, the founding families. One of them, a creature made of flowing liquid metal, spoke in a voice like thunder. These are lies and fantasies. Velthar is angry because a business deal did not work in his favor. He brings a human janitor and a traitor employee as his witnesses. This is an insult to the council. Then let us examine the evidence, Matriarch Yus said calmly. If it is lies, we will know. Velthar, present your case. For the next 3 hours, they showed the council everything they had found. Dongmin displayed his database of 47 compromised contracts. Jiwon explained how the consortium exploited cultural differences. Bora presented evidence of the attack on Velthar's ship and the attempt to kill them all. And then it was Tae-sung's turn. He walked to the center of the chamber. Thousands of eyes watched him. Some were curious, some were hostile, some were bored. He was just a human after all. A young species. What could he possibly know that all these ancient civilizations did not? My name is Tae-sung, he said. His voice echoed in the huge chamber. 3 weeks ago I was a janitor. I cleaned floors and emptied trash. I was nobody important. He pulled up the first contract on the holographic display. Then I read this. And I saw something that 50 expert lawyers missed, a trap hidden in boring language. And I realized something. This was not an accident. This was designed to be missed. He showed them Section 47, the clause that had started everything. On Earth, we have thousands of years of experience with bad contracts. We fought wars over fine print. We destroyed kingdoms because someone did not read carefully enough. It was ugly and painful, but it taught us something. It taught us that when someone makes a contract too long and too complicated, they are usually hiding something. Tae-sung pulled up contract after contract, showing the council the patterns. Look at how these are written. The fair parts are short and clear. The unfair parts are long and confusing. The good terms are at the beginning where everyone reads them. The bad terms are buried deep where people get tired and stop paying attention. He could see some council members nodding. Others were leaning forward, looking at the contracts with new eyes. But the real proof, Tae-sung said, is what happened when we found this pattern. If the consortium had done nothing wrong, they would have welcomed our questions. Instead, they tried to kill us. Dal stepped forward then. The moth being's voice was soft but clear. I worked in the consortium's legal department. I wrote some of these contracts. We were taught to make them complex on purpose. We were told that sophisticated clients appreciated detailed agreements. But I started to notice something. The contracts we wrote for rich, powerful clients were simpler. The contracts we wrote for smaller, less experienced clients were more complex. I asked why. My supervisor said it was because the smaller clients needed more protection. But that was a lie. The complex contracts were traps. She pulled out her own datapad. I have internal communications from the founding families. They discuss which species are easiest to deceive. They celebrate when someone signs away more than they realized. They call it harvesting. That is their word. Harvesting civilizations. The chamber erupted in noise. Council members shouted questions. The consortium representatives tried to talk over everyone. Matriarch Ias hit her gavel 3 times and the sound echoed like thunder. Silence fell. The consortium will now respond to these accusations, she said. A team of lawyers came forward. They were the best in the galaxy, hired by the wealthiest families. For 2 hours they argued. They said every contract was legal. They said every client had the chance to review the documents. They said if people did not read carefully, that was not the consortium's fault. The law is the law, the lead lawyer said. If a contract is signed, it is binding. The consortium did nothing illegal. Tae-sung felt his hope sinking. The lawyers were good. They made everything sound reasonable. Yes, the contracts were tricky, but that was not a crime. Yes, people lost things they did not expect to lose, but they should have read more carefully. Then Kyung-soo, the human ambassador, stood up. Counsel, may I speak? Matriarch Is nodded. The consortium's lawyers are correct, Kyung-soo said. Under current galactic law, these contracts are legal. But I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about what law should be. He gestured to Tae-sung. This human explained how his species learned about bad contracts. We learned because we suffered from them. We had slavery contracts that were legal. We had treaties that stole land and were legal. We had agreements that destroyed lives and were legal. And then slowly we realized something. Just because something is legal does not mean it is right. Kyung-soo pulled up images from Earth's history. We created new principles. We said that contracts signed under deception are void. We said that agreements must be fair, not just legal. We said that the powerful have a responsibility not to exploit the weak. These ideas took us thousands of years to develop, but we learned them through pain. He looked around the chamber. The consortium's lawyers say the law is the law. But who wrote those laws? The same families that benefit from them. They created a legal system that lets them steal planets and call it business. That is not justice. That is just organized crime with paperwork. Tae-sung saw council members nodding now. More of them. Even some who had looked skeptical before. Matriarch Is was silent for a long time. Finally she spoke. This council must decide. Are we a body that enforces rules or are we a body that pursues justice? Sometimes those two things are not the same. She looked at the consortium representatives. You have followed the letter of the law while violating its spirit. You have been technically correct while being morally wrong. This council must decide if that is acceptable. Then she called for a vote. The chamber fell silent. One by one, lights appeared next to each council member's seat. Green for guilty, red for innocent, yellow for abstain. Tae-sung held his breath. The lights appeared slowly at first, then faster. Green, green, yellow, red, green, green, green. He tried to count them, but there were too many. Finally, it was done. Matriarch Is looked at the results. Her stone face was unreadable. The council has decided, she said. The Galactic Trade Consortium is guilty of systematic fraud. All contracts written with deceptive intent are void. All affected civilizations are restored to sovereignty. The consortium is dissolved and its assets will be used to repair the damage it has caused. The chamber exploded with noise. Some beings cheered. Some shouted in anger. The consortium representatives were already leaving, their lawyers gathering documents. Tae-sung felt like he could not breathe. They had won. A janitor and a merchant prince, a data analyst and a professor, a security chief and a whistleblower. Together they had changed the galaxy. 6 months after the trial, Tae-sung stood in his new office and looked out at the stars. The office was not fancy or big, but it had a window and that was enough. Outside, he could see the Meridian trade station where he used to work as a janitor. It felt like a lifetime ago. Behind him, someone knocked on the door. "Come in," he called. It was Dongmin carrying a stack of data pads. "We have 17 new cases today. A mining colony on the edge of the galaxy thinks their water contract has a problem. A farming planet wants us to review their trade agreement before they sign. And a small government wants help understanding a technology transfer deal." Taesung smiled. 17. "That is our busiest day yet." "The word is spreading," Dongmin said, adjusting his glasses. "People are starting to understand that they need to read the fine print. And they want humans to help them do it." The fine print foundation had started small, just Taesung, Dongmin, and Jiwan working out of a rented office. But Velthar had given them funding, and other wealthy beings who had been helped by their work donated too. Now they had 20 employees, offices on 3 different stations, and more requests for help than they could handle. Jiwan came in next, looking excited. "I just got a message from the new Galactic Legal Academy. They want me to teach a course on cross-species contract law, and they specifically want me to include the human approach to reading agreements." "That is wonderful," Taesung said. "You should do it." "I will, but I am nervous," Jiwan admitted. "Teaching aliens about how humans think. What if they do not understand?" "They will understand," Taesung said. "You are a good teacher. And what we do is not that complicated. We just read carefully and ask questions. Anyone can learn that." Bora arrived last, no longer in a security uniform but in simple civilian clothes. She had left her old job to run the Foundation's investigation division. "I have news. The Council just passed the new contract law. Every major agreement must now be reviewed by independent analysts before it can be signed. And there must be a plain language summary that anyone can understand. The humans at the Council are calling it the Taesung Standard," Dongmin said, grinning. Taesung felt his face get hot. "That is embarrassing. I just pointed out a problem. Other people did the real work. You started it," Bora said. "You were the first one to speak up." "That matters." There was another knock at the door. This time it was a messenger, a small floating robot. "Delivery for Taesung. Personal message from Earth." Taesung took the data chip and plugged it into his desk. A holographic image appeared. It was his sister, Heejin. She looked older than he remembered, with a few gray hairs now, but her smile was the same. "Taesung, I just saw the news about the Galactic Council's new law. I am so proud of you. Mom and Dad are proud too. They keep showing your picture to everyone in the neighborhood. Dad tells everyone that his son changed the galaxy." Taesung felt tears in his eyes. He had not been home in so long. The work had consumed him, and there was always another contract to review, another species to help. "I have news too," Heejin continued. "Minji got accepted to the Interspecies Law Academy. Your niece is going to be a lawyer, just like her aunt, and she says it is because of you. She wants to help people the way you do. She is studying so hard, Taesung. I wish you could see her. She has your determination." The message ended. Taesung sat quietly for a moment. Minji was only 7 years old the last time he saw her. Now she was 18 and going to university. He had missed so much of her life while he was working on the station. "Are you okay?" Jiwan asked gently. "Yes," Taesung said. "I am just thinking about home. I should visit soon." "You should," Bora agreed. "The Foundation can survive without you for a few weeks. You deserve a break." But before Taesung could respond, his communication device beeped. It was Velthar. "Taesung, can you come to my ship? There is something I want to show you." An hour later, Taesung arrived at Velthar's new vessel. It was smaller than his old ship, less flashy but still elegant. The merchant prince met him at the airlock, his crystalline face reflecting the light. "Thank you for coming," Velthar said. "Walk with me." They went to the observation deck, where stars filled the windows in every direction. "I wanted to thank you again," Velthar said. "Not just for saving my planet, but for teaching me something important. I spent my whole life thinking that success meant having more than everyone else. More money, more ships, more power. But I was signing it all away without realizing it because I never took the time to understand what I was really agreeing to." He turned to Taesung. "You taught me that details matter. That reading carefully matters. That asking questions matters. These seem like small things, but they changed everything." "You are welcome," Taesung said. "But you did not need to call me here just to say thank you. We are friends now. Friends do not need formal thanks." Velthar made a sound like chiming bells, which Taesung had learned was laughter. "You are right. I called you here for another reason. The council wants to create a new position, a special advisor on contract fairness, someone who can review major galactic agreements and make sure they are not hiding traps. They want you to take the job. Tae-sung stared at him. Me, but I am not qualified. I am just a janitor who learned to read contracts from his sister. You are the most qualified person in the galaxy, Velthar said. You see things others miss. You ask questions others are afraid to ask. And most importantly, you care about doing what is right more than doing what is profitable. I need to think about it, Tae-sung said. The Foundation needs me, and I want to go home to Earth soon. I have not seen my family in years. Go home first, Velthar said. See your family, rest, think about what you want. The council's offer will wait. 2 weeks later, Tae-sung stood in his mother's kitchen on Earth. She was cooking his favorite meal and the smell filled the whole house. His father sat at the table, still in his work clothes from the factory. Minji was there too, home from her first semester at the academy. She hugged him tight when she saw him. Uncle Tae-sung! I have so much to tell you about school. I am learning about contract theory and cross-species communication and everything you did at the trial. My professors use your case as an example in class. I am just glad I could help, Tae-sung said. That evening they all sat together and ate. His mother told stories about the neighborhood. His father complained about his boss but smiled while doing it. Minji talked about her classes and her friends and her dreams of working for the Foundation someday. And Tae-sung realized something. He had changed the galaxy, yes. He had helped free civilizations and rewrite laws. But this sitting here with his family, eating his mother's cooking and listening to his niece's excited chatter, this was just as important. After dinner, Minji pulled him aside. Uncle, can I ask you something? How did you do it? How did you find the courage to speak up to Velthar that night? You could have lost your job. You could have been killed. Tae-sung thought about it. I remembered what your mother taught me, that staying silent when you see something wrong is the same as helping the bad guys. And I thought about you. About the kind of galaxy I wanted you to grow up in. That made it easier. Minji smiled. I want to be like you. I want to help people. You will, Tae-sung said. You are already starting. Just remember to stay curious, read carefully, and never be afraid to ask questions. That is all I did. 3 months later, Tae-sung accepted the council's offer. He became the special advisor on contract fairness, a position that had never existed before. He still ran the Fine Print Foundation with Dongmin and Ji-won. He still took cases from small colonies and struggling planets. But now he also reviewed major galactic agreements, making sure no one could hide traps in the fine print anymore. On his first day in his new council office, Tae-sung received a contract to review. It was a trade agreement between 2 major civilizations, hundreds of pages long. He smiled, picked up his datapad, and started reading. On page 47, he found something. A clause that seemed innocent but was not. He highlighted it, made notes, and prepared his report. Then he picked up his communication device and made the call. His voice was calm and confident. Hello. I have reviewed your contract and I found something you need to know about. Do not sign that agreement. Let me explain why. And across the galaxy, beings of every species were learning to say the same thing. To read carefully, to ask questions, to trust but verify. The human approach to contracts was spreading, and it was making the galaxy a fairer place. All because one janitor decided to speak up.